What's up, Doug Houdini in the garage. Today I'm going to show you how you can take a dirty, disgusting, failing, falling headliner like the one in this Dodge
and transform the inside of your vehicle into something like this or a more subdued pattern. But personally, I say headliners, like music and exhaust systems, should be as loud as they physically can be. Now, step one in installing a headliner is to remove your old one, and to do that you first need to identify how your headliner is held into the vehicle in question. There are two ways headliners are held in. You either have fasteners going through your headliner, like these that hold the visor in, or you have pieces of trim or something else that overlaps your headliner, like this A-pillar door trim. All of that stuff needs to be removed. It's usually either pressure clips or some kind of fastener, be it a Torx or a Phillips head. If you want, find a forum for your vehicle ahead of time and ask the question, how do you get the headliner out? Maybe somebody can help you. But otherwise, it really isn't too difficult to just work your way around the vehicle, removing everything that goes through your headliner and everything that overlaps your headliner. It's really as simple as that. And then you just get started pulling out fasteners and popping off various pieces of trim that again are overlapping your headliner. And it's just so important to remember, this stuff has probably never been taken off since it was put on at the factory. I'm sitting in a 96 Dodge here, that's 28 years. Here's maybe newer or older. The point is things are gonna be brittle. They may be a little bit tight in there. You wanna go easy because nothing's worse than not being able to put your interior back together or having it rattle or missing pieces. You don't wanna fix your headliner just to screw up all your trim and interior pieces. So take your time. There's points for accuracy and finesse.
Friends, you can see we got all the fasteners out and everything that's overlapping is out with the exception of these back panels. I think I might be able to sneak them out. But you can see once you get it out, the headliner should be hanging.
It's important to remember if you have stuff like rear washers, third brake light, defrosters, all the tubing and wiring for these things very well may be underneath your headliner, in between the roof and the headliner. So before you go ripping it out, make sure specifically like the tubing for the rear washer is probably held onto the top of your headliner or the ceiling roof somehow. You just want to make sure that you're accounting for all that stuff so you don't rip anything out as you're pulling your headliner out and make your job longer, harder, more expensive, more difficult. This is a fun project. No need to bring actual repairs into it. And then at a certain point, you will remove enough stuff and the headliner will kind of just fall. Now you see, I did not have to touch that panel over there. And this rear panel, I was able to just get loose and then the whole headliner fell down. And then the tricky part, especially in a pickup truck like this, is how do we get this darn thing out? Some collection of moving the seats and everything. If you have an SUV, you just sneak it out the back. Usually on a diagonal. So I'm going to finagle this guy out and then we'll move on to step 2.
It really is a game of finesse. Remember, the OEM got it in there in one piece, so there has to be some way to Rubik's Cube it out in one piece. You can see I had to turn mine 90 degrees, and then she slides right out with zero drama.
Alrighty friends, how involved step 2 is completely depends on your headliner, because what you have to do is separate this headliner fabric from the actual backer board. Now this backer board might be foam, it might be a composite material, it might be almost like a cardboardy material. What you need to do is identify how can we get this stuff off. Now, like if yours is failing like mine, this is easy because this stuff wants to fall off. It's pretty well failed. If you're just upgrading yours, you may actually have to work at peeling these off. But most of the time, what you essentially have is a fabric layer, a foam layer, that's this brown stuff, and then the backer board. And the foam layer will fail, and that's what allows the backer board and the fabric to release. So I can't tell you exactly how you're gonna have to go about getting yours off, but what I can tell you is the weak link is the foam. That's the old adhesive. The previous owner put staples or screws or anything in. You might want to be careful of those as you're maneuvering this stuff off. And then we need to remove this foam because it's what fails. Whether it's heat or time, it breaks down and you can't put spray adhesive over it. The thing that I've always found works well is a very stiff brush.
The scrub brush is going to work on this one because it's not particularly well adhered. It's just as easy as that. All right. Additionally, you can try rotary brushes like this that chalk up in a drill. I'll leave you a link to where I got these. These are great if you have hard to remove foam. I mean, you can see this stuff I could literally do by hand. You know, Chrysler quality in the 90s, right? But some kind of brush like this that's not going to damage the substrate, the backing material, but is going to remove this foam, and it's not going to keep you on the driveway all day arguing. Alrighty friends, this part is done. This headliner is prepped now. This is kind of a cheaper headliner. It's deteriorating in some spots, but the beauty of the method I use is it does not matter. Now we need to talk quickly about fabric. Now the fabric you choose is simultaneously the most important part of the project and doesn't really matter. The only rule you have to follow is that it has to be stretchy. Why does it need to be stretchy? Well, it needs to be stretchy because it needs to be able to contour down into dips, up into corners. You may remember I did it on my Cherokee that had speaker pods in the back. You're going to need to be able to contour up and around this thing. So a fabric that has some stretch in it is an absolute must. You also want one that has a little bit of thickness so that if there are any imperfections, like here the headliner's actually kind of ripping around where the visor mounts go. There was a crease along one of the sides. A little bit of thickness in your material will help you take up that space. It also adds a margin of error, and who doesn't love a little margin of error? Now for me and most people, that means you're going with fleece. Fleece has some good thickness to it. It's relatively inexpensive and it's got a ton of stretch in it. And as a fourth unexpected benefit, it comes in a ton of patterns. Super fun patterns, so you can customize the frig out of your vehicle. If y'all have known me for any amount of time, you know I'm a fan of loud music, loud exhaust, and loud friggin' headliners. I will leave a link to the video where I did a headliner in my Jeep Cherokee. We put a Navajo blanket in there. Did an Avengers in my 2002 Grand Cherokee. My 2000 Grand Cherokee over there has a real tree camo. Anyway, point is, for this one, I wanted to go with Galaxy. One, because I was trying to find something that had some of the crazy 90s colors that my seats have. And believe it or not, I think this Galaxy one has most of them. And two, the executive producer is really into blue and purple. So why not make the truck more appealing to the executive producer? If you don't know, as an absolute fifth thing, fleece is super easy to find. You can get it at most Wal Marts. All right, I got this at Joann Fabrics. Now fleece does have two sides to it. That'll be very apparent. One side is gonna have the pattern on it, but it's gonna be kind of muted and blurry, and the other side will have it more sharp. What you want to do at this point is align your pattern and figure out where you want to place everything. So as we're laying it out, you're going to kind of pull it and tug it and stretch it. And what you're trying to do is flatten it. Now as you're moving around and fitting everything down and smoothing it out, you want to watch out for areas like this where it's actually stretched over the curve. And what will happen if we glue it like that is eventually it will pull away. So you want to make sure that it's got no tension on the curves, just really sitting as flat as it can. You basically want it as loose as you can possibly have it without creating wrinkles. And honestly, those wrinkles can usually be smoothed out, so it's just as loose as she'll go. All right, real quick, let's talk about adhesives. All right, the only adhesive I would use for a headliner is 3M Super 77. The Super 90 messes with the fabric. Don't use the Super 90. And honestly, you don't even have to use the Super 7 anymore because 3M came out with a headliner adhesive that has some more heat resistant. It's like in between the 77 and the 90. It's got some of the heat resistance that the 90 has, but the ease of use and the fast drying of the 77. So if you don't know spray adhesives, just go get the headliner adhesive. If you use 77 all the time, that'll work. I don't recommend using 90. So the best way to do this is to kind of peel it in half and do half at a time.
One of the things that I like about the 3M Headliner spray as opposed to the Super 77 is the spray pattern. It has this crazy spray pattern that makes this 4-inch matrix of spray lines, and it does a really good job. You let both sides tack up for about a minute, then you put them together, and that gives you a good 5 minutes of work time as long as you move quickly and are deliberate. You can pick it up a couple times, you can move it, and what you're really doing is just smoothing out any creases and making sure there's no tension in the curves or on the bumps. Once you rub it down with your hand, it is pretty well locked down. So when you go over with your hand looking for creases, you want to use a light touch. Then you can work the creases out with your fingers, give it a little bit of pressure, and that will lock the two glued areas together. You can see I'm going into the creases a second time just to make sure that they're really locked down. Once you have your first side done, you can go right into your second side, fold it back. Again, you're going to spray both sides with that really awesome, you can see it's not just a spray, it's almost like spaghetti lines going all over the place, and it makes this great matrix that binds the two sides together. Because the worst thing is going through all this effort, putting a new headliner in your vehicle, being in love with the results, and then on the first hot day your corners pull out and they fail, and I have seen that happen.
Alrighty friends, there she is. I feel real good about this one right now. We're gonna let it sit for an hour, maybe a little more. Alrighty friends, we let her sit for a little over an hour. Now it is time to do the trimming so we can get this thing reinstalled. I like to give her a quick once over, make sure there's not any creases or anything I missed. And then what you want to do is go ahead and trim. And the rule of thumb here is if there's going to be trim covering it, you want to trim right up to the edge of the headliner. If it's going to be exposed, about a good 1/2 inch extra so that we can flip it, spray it, and wrap it, and you'll have a nice finished edge there, and all these will be covered by the trim. You'll never see that. The next thing we have to do is cut any holes that should be in the headliner. And I'm pretty sure on this one, there's only a couple. The biggest one is right here where the courtesy light goes. What you're going to do, since this one's a square, find the corners, right? And just inside of the hole, cut a little X. Don't go all the way to the edge because you want it to wrap around nicely. All right, cut an X. That's going to allow us to tuck this back. Might even still be adhesive on it that you can just tuck it right back, right like that. If not, we'll spray some adhesive when we flip it. All right, you want to go around and you got to do that to anywhere where there was supposed to be a hole. I think the only other ones we really got to do that aren't pinholes are these up here where the visors go. Once that's sorted, we'll flip her over, nice and careful. And now I'm going to go ahead and spray this edge so that I can wrap this back over. Alright, you know, the last thing we have are the hardware holes that are smaller than, say, a dime. I don't like to cut these because you end up cutting the hole too big. I like to just take a pick and make a hole in the fleece, alright, and kind of work it around like that. Try not to destroy the headliner too much. And now you can get a screw through there and it'll give a nice, tight, finished look. These guys here are on the bubble. If you want, you can just poke your OLFA knife or whatever you're using to cut right through. I wouldn't try to actually cut out the dimensions of this shape though. Just put the little slit in there and work your hardware through. And there it is, friends. She looks pretty darn good, if I may say so myself. I'm gonna do a final walk around, make sure everything is laying down. I've cut all the corners I need to cut. And let's get her back in the truck. She's basically in. All intents and purposes, she's held up. I just need to do the inverse of everything else I did. I got to put in all the fasteners and all the hardware and all the little bits that go through the headliner or overlap it.
Let me do that real quick and then we'll close this video out. I am in love with this. I was worried it would be too loud. There's no such thing. Alrighty friends, here we are installing the very last piece through the headliner. I think this is a garment hook, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, point is, this project's done. It's a super easy project to tackle in an afternoon, and it's a really great way to freshen up a tired vehicle. The headliner is one of the first things to go. They get abused, and you can do something fun like this, or you could absolutely get fleece that is, you know, the same gray that we took out of here, or black, or you could do, I almost did like flannel. Flannel would have been a good in-between, you know, so it's not quite as crazy as this. But I know a lot of people are saying, well, now you can never sell the darn thing. First of all, that's not right, because I've sold several vehicles with crazy headliners. And two, it only took me 3 hours to do this. If I was serious about selling her, I'd put the money into putting a gray headliner back in. But for me, and the executive producers rolling all over town, oh my goodness, you can't buy class like this. Well, you can. Costs about $34.
And here are those edges that we rolled over. You can see they look really, really nice right up there against the gaskets. It's a very, very finished look, and that 1/2 inch with the glue just sort of locks it in there, so there's no chance you're gonna have a problem.
But there is one problem. Ugh.
Those visors are terrible now. I mean, they were dirty and saggy before, but now they're basically unacceptable.
You remember I said save your cutoffs? We're gonna do a video, probably be the next video if I can swing it, on how we can cover some visors with similar material or a complementary material or whatever you like. But stay tuned for that video. In fact, if you subscribe, you're almost guaranteed to see it. Good gravy, bud. I've got friggin' headliner foam everywhere, but that doesn't matter. What does matter is that we're donezo. This project is so easy. It takes an afternoon. It does not even an afternoon. It took me like 2 hours, and I was filming for you people, not counting the dry time. You do want to let it dry. Take your time and follow the directions. All right, take that extra minute to roll out all the little creases. Take that extra minute to tuck it behind and glue it down, because if you do this right, you do it once and it looks amazing forever.
So go ahead, friends, let me know, what do you think? What do you think of my Galaxy headliner? Would you have gone for something a little more subdued, a little more normal, or are you like me?
Headliners, music, and exhaust should just be loud. If you want to see that, just go ahead and follow the channel, because this is our current build, though we are still maintaining our fleet of Grand Cherokees. We are still dipping into the, you know, lawnmower world, but for the most part, we're fixing up this old Dodge Dakota on the channel. So if you want to see the rest of it, by all means, leave me a comment down in the squawk boxes. So far, we've introduced it, we fixed an oil leak, and we tinted it. I've got videos on all that stuff. If you want, there's even a playlist on this old Dodge Dakota. Go ahead and follow that playlist, or at least check her out, all right? And a comment down in the squawk boxes. I can't wait to hear from you. As always, thanks for watching. See you next time.